بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We reached chapter number 30. The author, Sheikh Muhammad Fuad Abdul Baqi, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, quoting Nawawi, Babu Fadl al-Siyam. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الله كل عمل ابن آدم له إلا الصيام فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به والصيام جنة وإذا كان يوم صوم أحدكم فلا يرفث ولا يصخب فإن سابه أحد أو قاتله فليقل إني امرؤ صائم والذي نفس محمد بيده لخلوف فم الصائم أطيب عند الله من ريح المسك للصائم فرحتان يفرحهما إذا أفطر فرح وإذا لقي ربه فرح بصومه. حديث سهل رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن في الجنة بابا يقال له الريان يدخل منه الصائمون يوم القيامة لا يدخل منه أحد غيرهم يقال أين الصائمون فيقومون لا يدخل منه أحد غيرهم فإذا دخلوا أدخل فلم يدخل منه أحد. Chapter 30 says the superiority of observing fasting. The superiority to observe fasts. The superiority of fasting and the excellence of fasting. Hadith 707 is very similar to the previous hadith in the previous chapter, Hadith 706, which was also narrated by Abu Hurairah. That the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, all the deeds of Adam's sons are for them, except for fast, which are for me, or which is for me, and I will give the reward for it. Observing fasting is a protection. If one of you is observing fasting, he should avoid sexual relation with his wife and quarreling. And if anybody should fight or quarrel with him, he should say, I am fasting, by him in whose hand my soul is. The smell coming out of the mouth of a person observing Sawm is better to Allah than the smell of musk. There are two pleasures for the person observing fast. One at the time of breaking his fast, another at the time when he will meet his Lord. Then he will be pleased because of his observing fasting. Then Hadith 708 is narrated by Sahl ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said, there is a gate in paradise called Al-Rayyan, and those who observe Sawm will enter through it on the day of resurrection, and none except then will enter through it. It will be said, where are those who used to observe Sawm? They will get up, and none except them will enter through it. After their entry, the gate will be closed, and nobody will enter through it. So these two authentic hadiths clearly prove what the chapter heading has stated. The first being the narration of Abu Hurairah, Hadith 707, very similar to Hadith 706, pretty much identical, give and take a few points. And the hadith after that, the narration of Sahl ibn Sa'ad radiallahu ta'ala anhu, clearly affirms the virtue of fasting, whereas there's a specific gate in Jannah just for those who make abundant fasts. Those who make it their normal staple practice to fast in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan, 6 days of Shawwal, every Monday and Thursday, the fast of Dawood, Yawm Ashura, Yawm Arafah, 3 days from each month, the white nights or the white days, quote unquote, and the other recommended times of fasting any day in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who are abundantly fasting. And that is because every Muslim is a sa'im. Every Muslim at one point or another should be sa'im. Okay? Everyone is supposed to fast the month of Ramadan. That's one of the 5 pillars of Al-Islam. The 5th pillar of Al-Islam is fasting the month of Ramadan. So with that being said, every Muslim is going to be sa'im. And they're called sa'imun. Before a woman gets pregnant, she's going to fast. After she gives birth, she's done breastfeeding, she'll fast. Before a woman gets married, she's going to fast. Before she reaches puberty, she'll fast. The man, before he becomes sick, he fasts. When he's not fighting in Allah's cause, he fasts. Every Muslim at one point in time, inshallah, should perform some type of fasting. But that's not the same as those who are given to fasting. Those who do it abundantly, all of the time, constantly, in which they're called and they're attributed to fasting. That is that gate, Ar-Rayyan, And of course, that gate, Ar-Rayyan, coming from Ray, meaning refreshment, something which is refreshing. It quenches your thirst. So the scholars of Islam, they say, from the wisdoms why this gate is called Ar-Rayyan, is that it is appropriate. It's a word play here. Because you were so thirsty and hungry while fasting, then it's only appropriate for you to get the opposite. And that is another proof, another evidence for the general principle, Inna al-jaza'a min jins al-amal. Or we say in English, you reap what you sow. You get what you deserve. What goes around, comes around. So the work that you put forth and the nature of that work is going to be the reward that you get and the nature of the reward that you receive. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Also, the hadith that talks about وَلِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ, that the fasting person shall receive two types of happiness, or two times of happiness. This is equivalent, or it can be used in other aspects and fields of life as well, such as seeing the fruits of your labor in the dunya, seeing your children graduate school, seeing your children grow up and do the right thing and be successful and be prosperous. You're happy because of the hard work that you put in. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, greater than that is the reward in the hereafter for raising children according to the Quran and Sunnah, and allowing them to grow up and to be successful and prosperous, and to be of those who contribute to this world and make the world a better place, a safer place, and enhance the quality of life of themselves and those who are around them. So this hadith is universal, as that anyone who works hard, and inshallah ta'ala, he sees the reward in his lifetime or in his dunya, and you get more in the hereafter as well. So there's always going to be a double bubble. It's always a daily double for the believer. Always a daily double. You see some of the rewards, some of the fruits of your labor, some of the positive effects of your efforts, but even greater than that is that which lies in store in the Darul Akhirah. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Also in that hadith 707, it says, وَإِذَا لَقِيَ رَبُّهُ فَرِحَ بِصَوْمِهِ. And when he meets his Lord, he will be happy with his fast as well. He will be happy with his fast as well. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. No, we rahimahullah ta'ala. He quotes the ulama regarding this part of the hadith, and it's very similar to what we previously mentioned last week's class, but it's more subtle. And I'm speaking to the advanced students. إنما أخاطب به يعني بعض المتفوقين ممن يقرأ كتب الشروح وقد لا يتنبه لمثل هذه الزلة ومثل هذا الكلام الذي فيه ما فيه قد لا يتنبه له قد يعني لا يخطر يعني على بال أحدكم يعني هذا الكلام وموضع الخطأ فيه. No, he something here he quotes from the ulama. He says regarding this, أما فرحته عند لقاء ربه فيما يراه فبما يراه من جزائه. طيب, he talks about how as far as him being happy when he meets his Lord, then he will be happy with the reward that he sees from his Lord, and thinking about the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon him, giving him the success to complete the fast. And that's generally sound. And that's not an issue of difference of opinion among any Muslim, a person being happy to see their good deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah. But due to the nature of the background of Nawawi and these other scholars regarding any hadith pertaining to Allah's attributes, we have to be more vigilant and pay more attention, and we have to extract the mistake that's found in that. And when we say liqa'a rabbihi, meeting your Lord, laqiya rabbahu, when you meet your Lord, as Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and others have stated and proven, is that whenever the word meeting, liqa, laqiya, yalqa, okay, whenever the term meeting or meeting place is used about the Day of Judgment, meeting Allah, meeting their Lord, then it automatically includes ithbatu sifatil wajh lillahi azza wa jal. It automatically and indirectly affirms the attribute of Allah's face, the attribute of the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is because Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah explained scientifically and others is that the word meeting someone in the Arabic language and our language as well, in English, أول ما يتبادر إلى ذهن, the first thing that you think about, the first thing that comes to your mind is what? Is seeing a person and looking at them directly and meeting them in person and actually seeing them in person. So he says that this affirms, along with the other proofs in the Quran and Sunnah, is that Allah Azza wa Jal, as the Quran clearly states and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ clearly state, in abundance, that Allah Azza wa Jal has described himself as having a face. And his face is not like our faces. It's not like the face of any of his created beings. And it does not mean his reward. It does not mean his recompense. That's ta'wil, fasid, batil, that's false, that's fake. And that's distortion and perversion of the Arabic language and of the text of the Quran and Hadith. The face of Allah is the face of Allah, ala al-haqiqah, ala zahirihi, as it outwardly states. And no one differs and no one fights and argues on the reality that Allah has a reward and that there will be a reward for the believers. And if you meet Allah, you go to Jannah, you see Allah, you're happy to be in paradise. So of course, you're looking forward to the reward. Of course, you're going to get the reward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But that is not what Allah has said. And that's not what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said. And that's not what the Sahaba said and understood and unanimously agreed upon. Is that al-jazak shay wal-wajh shay. The reward of Allah is a thing, and the face of Allah is another thing. And of course, we know from the precise ways of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that the lawazim al-sifa la ta'ni sifa nafsaha. Just because the thing is a requirement of the sifa, it doesn't mean that's what the sifa means. So when a person says, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ, we only feed you seeking the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, they seek the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, from the requirements of that is the reward of Allah. No doubt about that. There's no question about that. But the reward of Allah is not the face of Allah. They're two different things. And Allah Azza wa Jall's face have been mentioned in ayat and ahadith differently than Allah's reward, with different descriptions, with vivid details, other than the jaza and the thawab and the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is an example of subtle ta'wil, which is incorrect and is false. And I only mention this, and Allah knows, yani nasihatan lid-deen, okay? Just for the sincere advice for the Muslims and jealousy upon the orthodox understanding of these hadith. And the correct understanding is more beloved to us than anyone, than any scholar or any imam or any commentator. So therefore, what's meant by laqiya rabbahu, when he meets his Lord, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is that he will see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as is affirmed in many verses in the Quran and ahadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and so many different styles. Asalib. Allah talks about those who look towards his face. Allah affirms it. Allah talks about those who will be mahjubun. They'll be screened and they'll be veiled from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from their Lord. Kalla, on that day. Nay, Allah says, innahum, on that day they will be from their Lord mahjubun. They'll be veiled and screened from their Lord. Some scholars quote Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah and others to say that this verse affirms the opposite. Is that if the kuffar and the fusaq and the munafiqeen and these people, if they will be mahjubuna, if they will be veiled and screened from seeing their Lord, then those who are pious and those whose book is in the illiyin, the abrar, ashabul yamin, sabiqun, etc., then they won't be mahjubin. There won't be a veil between them and their Lord. Why do they distort this attribute? Why do they say it means reward and blessing? Why? No different than any other attribute that is not from their methodology to affirm. They say that if Allah had a face, then that means Allah has a body, and all bodies are similar and equal. So therefore, laysa kamithlihi shay. And once more, as we explained before, the same false, batil rhetoric, in which they use one principle to twist and to distort 50 verses and 500 hadiths with the same principle. Anything that they consider, they call to give some type of resemblance to Allah and His created beings, anthropomorphism, they say, laysa kamithlihi shay. And obviously, as we've explained, that is utmost disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who said that He has a face. And the Prophet is the one who said it. And Allah is the one who also said, laysa kamithlihi shay. So you're telling Allah that Allah really meant to say, laysa kamithlihi shay, and this can't be, it's impossible, it's kufr to believe this, you can't say this, you can't even think like that because of laysa kamithlihi shay. As if Allah doesn't know that He said, laysa kamithlihi shay. As if the Prophet ﷺ doesn't know laysa kamithlihi shay. I would understand how futile that argument is. Secondly, in the Arabic language, the wajh having more than one meaning, it's not an issue of discussion. It can have different meanings. It can mean a direction, it can mean this, it can mean that. But the description of Allah Azza wa Jalla's wajh, do the Arabs say that about a direction? Do they say that about a blessing? And the same applies to sifatul yad, the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hand could mean in any Arabic language power. It could. And it could also mean a favor and a bounty. But not when it's described. Not when it's vividly and explicitly mentioned to do this and to have this and it will this on the day of judgment. Allah will grab this and release this, excluding and canceling out the possibility of it meaning other than the zahir. So these are all very important principles for the Muslim to know in general, and brief in general, and for the tulab al-ilm to have a good amount of them, inshallah ta'ala, and for those who are advanced to be experts in them, to guide the Muslims who have become astray, to lead them to the correct path, and if and when necessary, if the time comes, to battle and fight in the cause of Allah with the pen, the sword of the mouth, and defeat the falsehood and the people of falsehood, and to stand up for the truth, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's incorrect and that's wrong. And when the Prophet ﷺ says, laqiya rabbahu, he will meet his Lord, he will look towards the face of his Lord. And he will also hope for the reward of Allah subhanahu azza wa jalla. So that's the general qaida. And I hope that you guys can understand it. And I hope that you guys, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, can appreciate this scholastic discussion. Moving forward, he then says, وَأَمَّا عِنْدَ فِطْرِهِ, as far as the happiness that he would experience when he breaks his fast, and of course he finished his ibadah, and inshallah his ibadah was safe and sound from any type of showing off or pride or conceit or thinking or feeling that Allah owes you something and doing it for the pleasure of people, and a person hoping for the thawab from Allah subhanahu azza wa jalla. He says here at the end of all of this, these different discussions, he says, وفي هذا الحديث فضيلة الصيام وكرامة الصائمين. And in this hadith is the superiority and the excellence of fasting. And the karama is that those who fast are honorable. They're respected. They have a great deal of nobility with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an encouragement to fast. And obviously these things should be mentioned. They should be brought up outside of the month of Ramadan. And one of the blessings, but at the same time, quote unquote, one of the curses, quote unquote, linguistically speaking, one of the problems with the Ramadan spirit, the speakers, imams, sheikhs, khatibs, people posting things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, social media, YouTube, blah, 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 is that it forces the general people only to think about fasting and to be reminded of fasting in the month of Ramadan. So every time the people contribute to the reminder about fasting and its virtue, in other words, 5 weeks are going to be in Ramadan this month, or 4. And the administration of the masjid says, please talk about fasting, brother. You have to speak about fasting. You have to talk about fasting. Give a spellbinding khutbah about fasting. Every post is about fasting, 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 fasting. And the moment that the month is over, a few people talk about Shawwal, making up the days, a menstruating woman, a pregnant woman, and that's it, done. And the chapter of fasting is closed. And it remains closed until maybe Arafah or Muharram, if that. And that's unfortunate. And one of the reasons why people don't reap the true benefits from Ramadan, and oftentimes why Ramadan never has a change on them or positive impact or effect, is because they only conveniently speak about Ramadan in Ramadan. And they only talking about it because of the heat of the moment. So I humbly feel, from my experiences, is that from the ways of combating this is to discuss fasting, its rulings, its virtues outside of Ramadan. And of course, a month before in Sha'ban, you're going to brush up, you're going to touch up, you're going to review, you're going to code it again, you're going to paint the wall again. There's no problem with that. Over and over again, this explanation, this fatwa, la bas. But you can't give in to the ignorant general people and what they want. So sometimes in the middle of another month, Dhul Qa'dah, in the middle of Muharram, in the middle of Jumad al-Ula, Jumad al-Ukhra, Rabi al-Awwal, etc., talk about fasting. As an imam, as a khatib, for those who may be watching this, who do khutbahs, do a random khutbah in your masjid, far away from Ramadan, about fasting. And watch the people that'll get mad and upset, and those who be dumbfounded. And inshallah ta'ala, you keep doing this from time to time, they'll get the point. And they'll appreciate it when Ramadan comes back. And the same applies to the ahkam and the fiqh and the rulings. Everybody understand this? And inshallah ta'ala, this will be a means of you unlocking the secrets of the fasting of Ramadan. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. Hadith 708, Hadith of Sa'd ibn Sa'd radiallahu anhu. It also goes to show us that certain acts, certain deeds, and certain rewards are exclusive in Islam. And they're not for everyone. There are levels and there are virtues and there are ranks that are exclusive to certain people. That's Allah's bounty. and he gives it to whom he wills. So, if you have a niche or niche, if you have a natural inclination towards something, you're naturally good at it, you naturally enjoy it, stick to it. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And this is all pertaining to the concept of at-takhassus, of speciality, exclusivity, etc. طيب, moving forward, chapter number 31. It states, Babu Fadl al-Siyam, fi sabilillah, liman yutiquhu bila dharar. حديث أبي سعيد رضي الله عنه قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من صام يوما في سبيل الله بعد الله وجهه عن النار 70 خريفا. Chapter 31 says the superiority of observing fast in a lost cause by the one who has the power to do it without getting hurt or overlooking his duties. Hadith 709 is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him. I heard the Prophet, peace be upon him, saying, whoever observes Sawm for one day for a lost cause, Allah will keep his face away from hell for a distance of 70 years, or for 70 years. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this chapter and regarding this hadith, he says, فيه فضيلة الصيام في سبيل الله ومحمول على من لا يتضرر به ولا يفوت به حقا أو يفوت به حقا ولا يختل به قتاله ولا غيره من مهمات غصبه ومعناه المباعدة عن النار والمعافاة منها والخريف السنة والمراد 70 سنة. He says the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, it proves once more the superiority and the excellence of fasting. The superiority and the excellence of fasting. And this is interpreted, the virtue of fasting a day in a lost cause, as for those who would do it and they won't become harmed. It won't cause them to be physically weak. In other words, when it's time to ride, travel, when it's time to fight. When it's time to fight in the cause of Allah. He says here, anything else which is important on a person's journey in the cause of Allah. And what's meant by al-muba'adah, being far away from the hellfire, he says the meaning of this is being far and being protected from hell. And what's meant by kharif, because the literal wording says 70 kharif, and 70 falls, or 70 autumns, 70 seasons of autumn. What's meant by that is a sana. فيه إطلاق, you say what? Al-juz' al-kull. Is a small part being mentioned, but the big part is meant. طيب. So we learn many things from this chapter heading. First and foremost is, and from the hadith as well, is that, like we said yesterday and many times before, whenever fi sabilillah is mentioned, then the immediate meaning is fighting and not jihadul nafs or any type of dawah or anything like that. Those things are included in the cause of Allah, but that's not the original meaning when it's mentioned unrestricted, without any restrictions. بغير قيد, بلا قيد. إذا ورد مطلقا. That's first and foremost. Because he clearly mentioned ghazw, and ghazw means fighting. طيب. We also learn from this is the importance of prioritizing. The importance of prioritizing. And that there's something which is virtuous, something that's fun, but it doesn't mean that you should do it if it forces you to neglect more important responsibilities, things that are immediately in front of you, that it is your duty to do. And we all know the wisdom that's found in the statement of some of the ulama of the past. They said, or they would say, من شغله الفرض عن النفل كان أو فهو مغرور. فهو من شغله الفرض عن النفل فهو معذور. ومن شغله النفل عن الفرض فهو مغرور. Those who are too busy to do the extra acts because they're so busy doing the obligatory acts, they're excused. They're pardoned. I had no extra time. I had no extra energy. I was making sure that I had done the fard. But those who are too busy doing the nafil, the extra acts, instead of doing the fard acts, then they're fooled. Shaitan has fooled you. He's tricked you. For you to stay busy doing this, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you can't do the basic things in front of you. And many of us, we fall victim to this when it comes to our family issues, a husband, a wife, children, a dawah. We talk about this, we speak about this, we go here, we do this, but the basic things in front of us we ignore. And oftentimes, one of the reasons why we ignore them is because oftentimes it takes more jihad. It's harder, it's more sour and bitter. And traveling and doing this and going here and talking to this one or that one is fun. Going outside of my house instead of me working on my own house is difficult oftentimes. So the fard comes first. If you have the ability to establish the fard and do the nafar, alhamdulillah. And if you don't, just do the fard. And this is also applicable to the month of Ramadan. You find people, they won't pray, they'll make tarawih. No fajr, no dhuhr, no asr, they'll make tarawih. They'll give this sadaqah and they haven't paid zakah. That's unfortunate. فَلْيُبَلِّغَ الشَّاهِدُ مِنْهُمْ الْغَائِبِ. The Prophet ﷺ says those who are present should pass on the message to those who are absent. So therefore, next point number 3, is that if you are strong enough to do both, to travel in Allah's cause, to go out in the cause of Allah and fast, then that's even a higher reward and a greater reward. A higher reward and a greater reward. And this hadith, it shows us is that fasting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a means of a person being protected from hell. A means of a person being protected from the fire of hell. So from the virtues of fasting is that it is a sabab min asbab al-najati min an-nar. طيب, moving forward. It says here, Babu siyam al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi ghayri Ramadana واستحباب أن لا يخلى شهرا عن صوم. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم حتى يقول أو حتى نقول لا يفطر ويفطر حتى نقول لا يصوم. فما رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استكمل صيام شهر إلا رمضان وما رأيته أكثر صياما منه في شعبان. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت لم يكن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصوم شهرا أكثر من شعبان فإنه كان يصوم شعبان كله وكان يقول خذوا من العمل ما تطيقون فإن الله لا يمل حتى تملوا وأحب الصلاة إلى الله ما دوم عليه وإن قلت وإن كان صلى صلاة داوم عليها. حديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال ما صام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شهرا كاملا قط غير رمضان ويصوم حتى يقول القائل أو حتى يقول القائل لا والله لا يفطر ويفطر حتى يقول القائل لا والله لا يصوم. Inshallah ta'ala, chapter number 34 we'll take in the next dars, the next class. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll take a few questions, if possible, briefly, bi'idhnillah. And also make sure for the coming announcements and events, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, Saturday will be the Mufti Q&A book one read along. Inshallah ta'ala, and the last Thursday of this month, like the last Thursday of every month, would be Judgment Day, according to Quran and Hadith. And you know how to visit us and how to show your support and sign up and register and log in. HadithDiscipleshop.com, our Facebook page, our Instagram, and all other platforms of social media. Jazakumullah khairan for your support. July the 4th at 2 p.m. and also July the 30th at 9 p.m., both Eastern time for those living in different time zones. And also look out for the other upcoming announcements and programs, bi'idhnillah. All right. A few questions. It says, Mahmoud G, assalamu alaikum, hope as well with everyone. Tayyib, I emailed you as requested, Sheikh. Tayyib, okay, I'll look into that for you. But then I just get back with you. Ibrahim B from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Does the hadith pertaining to the shuhada being in the bodies of green birds only apply as the shaheed al-ma'raka or other types of shuhada? Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As we mentioned yesterday, when the word shaheed is mentioned without any restriction, then it's meant shaheed al-ma'raka, bila shak, as the one who died gallantly or valiantly on the battlefield through a wound in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sickness from the battle, whatever the case may be. That's what's meant. And we only say it's the shaheed from another cause when it's restricted. When it's restricted. So those who die from the other types of shahada, martyrdom, quote unquote, we hope good for them. But those ahadith, the green birds, the grave, the punishment being removed, that's talking about those who died in the cause of Allah fighting. Wallahu azza wa jal alam. Next question says, I believe Baytul Ma'mur. Inshallah ta'ala, please mention where you're coming from. Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you very much. James, MR, Buckinghamshire, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. May Allah make you close to the Prophet on the Day of Judgment. I mean, you as well. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallahu khairan for the dua. Thank you very much. MG from Atlanta, Georgia. When fasting, what is some advice to avoid extreme hunger after eating or overeating? After breakfast, avoiding extreme hunger? I don't understand that. I don't think, I don't know, I don't think we've ever met before. Um, but I don't think, and Allah knows best, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't think too many of us have experienced extreme hunger. I think it's a very strong word. Hunger versus extreme hunger. You know what extreme hunger is? Okay, experts say that starvation, dying of famine, is one of the most painful ways of dying. One of the most painful ways of dying. And experts also say that one of the most painful ways of dying is a wound in the belly, whether you get shot or stabbed in the belly. Also, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "Man yaqtulhu batnuhu," he who is killed by his stomach, is an extreme amount of pain. So I don't know if you or we've experienced extreme hunger. Hunger? Yes, my stomach is growling. I'm hungry. I can eat a horse. I'm starving. I'm hungrier than a hostage. I'm hungry like a hippo. Okay? We say these things. But extreme hunger? That's a strong statement in which you haven't had food for days. You haven't had water for days. Your stomach is swelling. Your bones become thin. You get a bruise on your back, your shoulders, your backside because your meat is going away. It's dissolving because of extreme hunger. So I don't know about that. Okay? As far as hunger in general, then I would advise you to have a good, wholesome, healthy suhoor, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Some good old-fashioned steel-cut oatmeal. Huh? Steel cut oatmeal, the good stuff, the expensive stuff, not the instant stuff, but the hearty stuff. Whether you Quaker oats with the Quaker on the box or the thingy, you know what I'm talking about? If you're in America or not, okay, some buckwheat pancakes, something that's staple. Eat something that's going to stick to your ribs, as we say. And of course, no matter what type of whole wheat or steel cut oats that you eat, you're going to be hungry. Especially if you're used to eating 3 square meals a day, 4 square meals a day, snacks, goodies, candy, drinking, coffee, this and that. It's just going to come. And that's all a part of the jihad inside of Ramadan and the reward. And every growl of the stomach and every time your lips are dry and crusty like you ate a powdered donut, that's the reward, inshallah, being affirmed. And that's the sin, the multiple sins being burnt away and washed away. Like in the gym, right? You're working out, you're lifting this, you're on a treadmill, jumping rope, your legs hurt, your arms hurt. You feel the burn, that's the muscle mass growing. That is the fat being burnt off. That's your heart becoming stronger. So that's something which is unavoidable and inescapable, the hunger. But many of us, we do make mistakes. We have junk food for our suhoor. We eat stuff that's not going to be helpful to our bodies. And that's a long discussion with regards to general health and general dietary practices of many of us, including myself. I'm not going to sit in front of you like I'm some food guru or like I'm some saint of the kitchen. I eat junk food. Sometimes I drink things that I shouldn't drink. That's how we are, coming from America. All right? But we do learn, and inshallah, we practice to do better. Bidnillahi ta'ala. As far as it says here, overeating, then realizing that Ramadan is not a time to eat extra. It's not a time to pig out, as we say. It's a time to restrict yourself and to gain control over yourself. But I will say this. Before we even talk about Ramadan, many people, they have a misconception of overeating. And they have a misconception with regards to thinking that if you eat until you're full, you're a glutton or you're a pig. Excuse my bad wording or French. Obviously, those who are from America, you know what I'm saying. Except for the people who pretend and act like they're not from America. All right? If you love someone from the UK, which we love our brothers and sisters from the UK, it doesn't mean that you tarnish and get rid of your culture and act like you don't understand the words and the culture and the style of those who speak in America. You say, oh, the brother, he called the Muslim a pig. He called the Muslims pigs. Anyone who's from America knows what's meant by that. All right? They think that if you eat until you're full, you've committed a sin. And you're against the sunnah. And that's not true. Inshallah ta'ala, you can go back to the book called The Dispraise of Wastefulness and Extravagance, Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz. It's a book that I translated some years ago. And in there, Sheikh bin Baz talks about this misconception. And he speaks on how it is permissible to eat until you're full. It is permissible. And that doesn't mean that it's haram or even disliked. And a hadith that states, مَا مَلَأَ ابن آدم وعاء شرا من بطنه فإن كان لابد فثلث لطعامه وثلث لشرابه وثلث لنفسه. The hadith of Al-Miqdam ibn Ma'di Karib that says that the son of Adam never fills a vessel worse than his own stomach. And if he has to fill a vessel, if he has to eat, then let it be a third for food, a third for drink, and a third for air. Now, the meaning of that, the advice of not eating too much is not a problem. But it does not mean that it's haram to eat until you're full. It does not mean that it is makruh to eat until you're full. It does not mean that. And there's discrepancy with regards to the authenticity of that hadith. There's discrepancy. As far as the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, then there are many in which the Prophet ﷺ allowed the companions to eat until they were full. Abu Hurairah was given the milk, ashab sufa. And the Prophet ﷺ said, drink, 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 drink. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, ma ajidu lahu maslakan, there's no room in my stomach. And he said, what? Ishrab ya abahir, drink. The hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah, the battle, the Prophet ﷺ, many of them didn't have food. And there was that miracle that was performed, the animal was brought, it was cooked. And a group went in. They went in, the Prophet ﷺ, they went in to the home, they left, they ate. Dakhalu, fa'akalu, shabi'u. There's a hadith after hadith about eating. So the hadiths that talk about not eating and only eating just a little bit, they're either weak, or they're authentic, but they're not as authentic as the other ones, or they're misinterpreted. And it lies no doubt there's a great level of, and obviously everything that the Sufis say and do is not incorrect. No one misquote us. Everything that the Sufis say and do is not incorrect. Just like the other groups, they have their pros and they have their cons. But anytime people bring in some type of interpretation of the authentic sunnah that's not based off of what's organic, it's a problem. And there is no doubt there are many people who interpret the hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim based off of certain principles, and certain people who quote certain things that are incorrect. It's not an organic understanding of the hadith, and it could be no min at-tasawwuf or min ta'thir at-tasawwuf. And we understand the point I'm trying to get to. So with that being said, it's permissible to eat when you're full in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. Now you eat until you can't get up. Some people say, I got the itis. Those from America know what I mean by that. If you're from the UK, you may say, what's the itis? All right? Those from America know what the term is. White, black, yellow, and purple. You can't get up. You can't get up. You don't have the ability to pray. Then that's a different story. As far as you eat until you're satisfied, then that's not haram inside Ramadan or outside of Ramadan. And from the things which prevent you from totally overeating is looking at the dispraise of it and what it does and the harms that can have upon your health. And I only went this far and in this much detail because it's dangerous. And I've debated and I've spoken with many people who think like this. They think that it's a disobedience and against the sunnah to eat until you're satisfied. And that's wrong. That's incorrect. So be mindful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.